Hey, sweet mama. Welcome back to another episode of Mama Mindset. I'm your host and creator, Amy Cawthron. Thank you so much for joining me today on this fabulous, fantastic Thursday. I hope you enjoyed Monday's episode. It was a little bit longer than I had originally anticipated in recording on the conversation regarding decluttering and preparing our households for the holidays. But I just feel like I've done it so much over the past, I would say 5 to 7 years. I think I started it right after we'd had kids and I was home and I needed to clean up our environment that I had so much to share. I had so much to say to you and just things that I've learned, mindset shifts that I've had around decluttering and the breath of fresh air that it brings, the easiness that it brings into our life. If you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and listen to it. I feel like it's really going to help you prepare your environment for the holidays, getting ready for Christmas. So go back and take a listen to that. And if you have any questions at all regarding that episode, please don't hesitate to reach out. Please don't hesitate to ask me anything. I'm always an open book. You guys should know that by now. I'm pretty transparent with my life, what I've done, what works, what doesn't work. Again, also just my last little friendly reminder about that episode. I do not claim to be any kind of an expert in decluttering. As I stated in the episode, I follow minimalists. I love the idea of a minimalist lifestyle, but by decluttering, by no means am I suggesting you need to be a minimalist. The entire point of that episode is finding the values within your household and what works for you. But right now we're talking about decluttering just specifically for the holiday season to make space for the gifts that you're going to be receiving, make space in your heart for those gifts that you're going to be giving, and the energy that's going to be flowing in and out of your household. So, with that being said, let me know what you thought about the episode. I was really excited to sort of just share what I've learned over the past few years, 5 years, 7 years in decluttering and my experience with that. So what I want to talk about today, or I guess I'm not really talking about it, what I want to do today is a question and answer series. These are always super fun. I've had Brad on for a couple of them, and that's always been fun. But today I'm just going solo. I'm just going to answer some of the beautiful questions. Thank you guys so much for sending in questions, by the way. Some of the amazing questions that I've had that I posted on my stories. And if you ever have any other questions outside of me just saying, hey, I'm doing a Q&A recording, what are your questions? Just send them to me because I actually just, I save them. I save a lot of them for future use. Even if I answer you, I'll save them for future use. For example, one of the ones I'm going to share with you today came from a listener a while ago, but I've had this question come up a few times and I just really want to address it to the entire community. So I'm just going to dive right in here. And the first question, I'm just going to kind of preface this with a few of these questions are specifically in line with the Mama Mindset Reset Challenge. If you're a new listener and you aren't familiar with the Mama Mindset Reset Challenge, please go back and listen to a few of my other episodes or head over to my website at amycawthron.com and check that out. What the challenge is a free challenge that I put together compiling all of the things that I've learned over the past 7 years and all of the mindset work, physical work, the energy work that I've done for myself, for me, and within my household, things that I've just figured out work. Absolutely 100% work for you getting your life back on track. And it's entirely free. It's a combination of physical fitness, water, personal development, cleaning up your environment, which means your house. So it's a combination of a lot of things that I put together specifically for moms. I put this together specifically for moms. There are so many challenges out there. There's so many programs out there. but a lot of them don't serve our needs as mothers. For example, one of the aspects which you heard in Monday's episode is a decluttering section. In phase 3 of the challenge, you have 10 minutes of decluttering every single day. And it's, to me, that is incredibly incredibly important and incredibly impactful. So this isn't just a physical fitness challenge. It's not just a diet challenge or weight loss challenge. It is so much more than that. This is the reset challenge that you're craving. This is the reset challenge that you're needing in your life, specifically as a mother. And I've designed this to be entirely free, just for my listeners, just for this community, to just boom, get you right back on track to where you need to be in your mind, in your body, and in your space. So some of these questions are specifically asked for the challenge, but it's also just kind of interesting, I guess, what my take is and kind of what I'm doing now. So the first question is, do books teaching a new skill count for the 10-page requirement in the challenge? So if you aren't familiar with the challenge, one of the requirements to do every single day is read 10 pages. So what this listener is asking, for example, is, do canning books count? Do learning how to garden books count in personal development? Reading the personal development reading requirements? And my answer is no. And I'll explain why. They do not count because they're not working on your personal mindset development to your core. Learning a new skill is great, and it's something we talk about on the podcast a lot. I think that's fantastic. I love reading gardening books. I love reading how-to books. But unless it's working on your mindset shifts, creating a new perspective in your paradigms, and by paradigm, I mean basically your perspective on life and your reality on life, it doesn't count. So what I really want is the personal growth, that personal development that teaches you how to set boundaries, set limits for yourself, delegate things within your household, having a growth mindset in terms of you as a personal individual and your output into the world. So like learning how to can is great. Learning how to garden is great. Learning how to knit or crochet or some of those handicrafts is beautiful. One of the things that I'll say I would allow, quote, allow, but I would think is acceptable is parenting books or something in terms of parenting, because what a lot of the parenting books do is actually shift your mindset and shift your perspective in how to approach certain situations, which you can actually take into other relationships as well. So handling a kid with anxiety, handling a child that has ADHD, those not only talk to you about ADHD, anxiety, and I'm just using these as an example. They not only teach you about those challenges and overcoming those with your child, but it also teaches you the mindset behind it. So you understand what they are, what they're going through, but then you can approach it differently as well, which you can then take into additional relationships outside of just being a mother. So I hope that answers the question clearly. I've read parenting books that are all about my mindset shift and how to approach my days, how to approach my morning with my children, but it all comes back to my core, my output into the world, my output into my household, not just like the physical act of learning something new. So I don't want to discourage you from reading those books, but maybe you can get your 10 pages of personal development read, and then you can maybe read a couple of pages of your other new hobby books that you're interested in learning about. Moving on from there, my next question number 2 is, what am I currently reading? So I love this question. I love it when people ask me this question. I have been reading, which you guys have heard me talk about already, Stephen Covey's book, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I am still reading it. It is a slow read. I took the cover off. So now it's just a hardbound book if you're watching this on YouTube. It is a slow read. I am right at halfway through it. And the reason why it's a slow read is because there's so much grit to pull out of this. There is so much good stuff to pull out of this book that you want it to be a slow read because you want to actually participate in the things and take action steps in the things that Stephen Covey is explaining and describing in this book. For example, right now, the section that I was reading this morning talks about scheduling and how to schedule your life efficiently and effectively to not only be productive, but to also give space for living. And he explains it in much greater depth than I'm going to dive into in this podcast. But what that had me do this morning was get my planner ordered for next year early. I got it ordered already. I have action steps that I'm already wanting to take to get next year going. And he gives some examples of planning in leaving space. And I truly don't feel like this is designed for just those that are entrepreneurs or are in the workforce. I really feel like I've pulled a lot of this out as far as relationships with your spouse, parenting, just organizational structure and just healthy habits as a mom running my household. These are all things that you could pull out of this book. So I'm still reading that book because, like I said, it's a slow read and I'm trying to work through some of it. I'm still working on my personal mission statement, getting that articulated and down on paper. I've talked about that in other podcasts. We are very clear on our vision as a household and what our goals are, but I've never actually wrote down on paper my mission. So I'm working through that as well. So it is a little bit of a slower read, but I highly, highly recommend it for personal development. So the other one, so Monday's episode was all about decluttering. The other book that I just finished reading not too long ago, which I also talk about in the episode, is Allie Casazza's Declutter Like a Mother. And it was a great read, very easy read, very quick. I think I read it in about a week, maybe two. And it was just a great refresher on why we declutter, the mindset behind it. She gave some tips and tricks for decluttering and how you approach, some tough areas. And she really gives grace in not perfection. She talks about progress over perfection and just getting started, but not worrying about having it perfect in the end. Otherwise you don't get going. So Declutter Like a Mother by Allie Casazza is the other one I just finished reading. So those are my two. If you're new to personal development and self-help, The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People may be a little, I don't want to say challenging, but I don't want you to get turned off if you haven't read books in years, if you're new to reading, that it's a little heavy. It's a little, I don't really know how to explain it, but it is a slower read. I think there's a lot of other books out there that you could read. However, if you are very interested in personal development and really wanting to read some of the top books out there, this is sort of a must read. It's kind of a must read in personal development. Schools are actually creating and structuring their environment around the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People because it is so good. It is so good to remember. So, I mean, in kindergarten, Gracie came home and they had developed a mission statement for their class, and they developed a mission statement for the school, and they talked about starting with the end in mind, taking proactive steps forward. So it's a great book for even kids to adapt in their own way, definitely more simplified. So again, those are the two books. That was my long-winded answer to that question. This is a great question. I love this question. The third one is, what is your alcohol alternative? So what is my alcohol alternative on the MMR challenge, on the Mama Mindset Reset Challenge? Great question. So again, if you're not familiar with the challenge, part of the challenge is cutting out alcohol. No alcohol, no cheat days, no cheat meals. It is one of the best things you could do for yourself. There's a lot of people out there maybe that don't drink. I was not one of them. And I'm not saying this is something you have to give up forever by any means, but it is amazing how good you feel when you cut it out of your life for an extended period of time. It's not a forever thing. There is an end in sight. If this is something that you want to continue later, I do think that it really makes you aware of how shitty it makes your body feel. So it's a huge mindset shift for somebody that consumes alcohol regularly, even on a really minor basis. It really shows you how clear-headed you can be and how good your body can be. So in answer to the question, what is my alcohol alternative? I love flavored sparkling water. And I'll tell you a story on that real quick. Well, I'll give you a couple of my alternatives first. One of them is coffee or decaf coffee. If we're out in the evenings, just to sip on something socially, it still feels cozy. I still get to hold something in my hand. I get so sick of water, just plain unflavored water, but flavored bubbly water like LaCroix or an off-brand is a great alcohol alternative. I went on a girls' trip this last summer, and we all got we have a theme or a logo. I guess it's not really a theme. And somebody this year made us all these really, really beautiful glasses, little tumblers. And for wine or cold beverages, I think you can even put hot beverages in them. And they had them etched. We all picked our own color, and they're super cute. So they were making cocktails in them. And I love cocktails with girlfriends, especially in the middle of summer. And I had just taken my sparkling water. And so instead of feeling like I can't have a cocktail or I want to use this glass and I can't because I don't have a cocktail, I just pulled my glass aside, put some ice in it, and put a flavored bubbly water in, sparkling water. And it was perfect. I actually didn't even miss drinking the alcohol because I was still participating in the social aspect of it. A lot of times for us, alcohol is a social thing. So for me, that tends to be a little bit of a challenge, but I was able to just come up with an alternative instead of the cocktails. And one of the gals that was on the trip, one of my friends, didn't even realize I wasn't drinking that weekend until I think it was the day that we were leaving. She said, "Well, I made cocktails and you had one." And I said, "No, I pulled my cup aside and I was actually just drinking sparkling water in mine." And she had no idea, which was great. That made me feel good. So sparkling water, LaCroix, something. And then, like I said, decaf coffee or caffeinated coffee. And I'll do the bubbly water here at the house. I'll do decaf coffee here at the house. Now that it's winter, I love herbal tea. So I'll switch and have herbal tea. In the summer, that was a little bit, that didn't sound very good. There is a dandelion tea blend that I was drinking for a while that I was drinking as because it was not caffeinated. I was drinking that as an iced coffee alternative. So I didn't have the caffeine. It's a powder mix. My husband thinks it's absolutely disgusting, but I think it's really good. It kind of tastes a little bit like instant coffee, but I would add a little bit of organic raw maple syrup to it and a little bit of almond milk because on my diet, I was dairy free. So I would do some almond milk with it and blend it all up. And oh my goodness, put it over ice and it was super good. So those are just a couple, but definitely the sparkling water is my best suggestion for that. And something I want you to keep in mind is it's not supposed to be easy. So those are great alternatives, but I'm not going to lie. When it comes down to it, you're still going to crave a beer or you're still going to want a glass of wine or you're still going to want a cocktail, especially in the beginning. And then halfway through, you're going to be like, yes, no, I feel great. This is awesome. I'm not even craving those things. But even if you get to the moments where you're just going to have to overcome that. It is going to still be pretty challenging. And it's supposed to be because it's something that we've never done before. So I have two other quick questions that I definitely want to address on here that I've had from other listeners in the past. And I have answered them via Facebook Messenger or Instagram DMs. But a question that I've had several times within the community is, how do I battle loneliness? A lot of the times, if you're a first time listener, a lot of my first time listeners say one of the biggest struggles that they have as a stay at home mom is battling loneliness. And even now, even today, I've been working on this for 7 years. I still have moments where I have not fulfilled or filled my social cup. And I have days and moments where I am lonely, where I want that adult interaction. I don't want the kids' interaction, but I have done so much work to get to a place where that is rare. It is very, very rare. And the amazing thing about it is that I can recognize it, whereas before I didn't fully recognize it. And I know now how to make it better and overcome that feeling of loneliness. Like the next day, I know we're going to reach out to a friend and go to the park, or we're going to just get out of the house, even if we don't intentionally plan on seeing anybody or scheduling something. So what I've done in the past, and I've done other podcast episodes about this as well, so you can always go back and listen to those. What I encourage moms to do if they're in the early stages of being a stay-at-home mom is don't stop trying. Keep trying to meet people, keep trying to reach out, keep trying to be part of a community or a group or building your own community. And the very, very best advice I can give you is to go to your public library and to find out when they're doing story time. I know in the midst of the pandemic, it's going to look a little bit different for everybody, but find out when they're doing story time. Ask the librarian when groups of moms come in. Is it in the morning? Is it in the afternoons? Find out when other people are coming in. See if they have anything organized for parents or young kids, and start going to that. And the reason why I suggest the library is because it's free. It doesn't cost you anything to go. I know there's a lot of groups out there like MOPS, for example. It's a great organization for a lot of people. It didn't align perfectly with me, and that's okay. A lot of people absolutely love that group, but it is a paid group. You do have to pay to be a member. It's a membership-based organization. And so if you're just trying to find some friends outside of a paid membership, the public library is a great place for you to start. But the best advice I can give you is just be vulnerable. Reach out. Don't stop asking or don't stop reaching out, and then ask for her number. Okay. If you make a connection with a mom at the park, ask for her number. Figure out how to get a hold of her. Figure out if there's another way for you to get in touch with her or meet up again at a later time. And don't stop trying. Keep trying. It has taken me years to get to a place where I feel I have a pretty good community of stay-at-home mom friends. Do I get together on a regular basis for play dates at their homes? Like, no, it's not exactly realistic for us living so rural. But now, once a week, we actually have an organized group that meets on Thursdays. And it has taken years, you guys, for those relationships to grow and to cultivate. And it may be a little bit of a slower process to cultivate those relationships to get to a point where you spend more and more time with each other. So don't stop trying. Don't stop trying to put yourself out there. Don't stop reaching out to people. Be brave, be vulnerable, and try, because the victim mentality says that you're will tell you that you need to wait for a relationship to come to you, or you need to wait for a friend to come into your life. But what I'm saying, as the mama mindset community, we want to reach out to other people. We take proactive steps in building our own communities and solving our own problems. It's not up to anybody else to combat that loneliness for us. It's not up to our husbands. It's not up to our parents. It's not up to our other friends. Maybe you have working mom friends. It is entirely 100% up to you. So what are you going to do about it? Are you going to sit at home and watch Netflix all day and hope that maybe tomorrow you make a friend somewhere? I don't know how you're going to do that sitting on the couch. Another piece of advice I have in regards to loneliness: do not rely on social media networks as your sole source of socialization. Sometimes that can be a really great way to meet people, but I think actually physically getting out of your house and meeting a person face to face in person is the best way to actually build a relationship. Through social media, not the best way. It is not a truly organic way of meeting people and creating a sustainable relationship with another mom or another person. Also, if you do end up wanting to have a play date with that person, the relationship, the time that you have spent cultivating that relationship via your cell phone, through social media, could be a waste of time. I know that sounds really harsh and terrible, but what happens when you go to meet that person in person and you realize, holy shit, we're not going to get along, or this is not going to work, or whatever? It just is not going to align. Now you've spent and expelled a lot of your emotional energy trying to cultivate this sort of, I don't want to say fake relationship, but this virtual relationship, when you really need to be expelling your energy to cultivate relationships in person. So that's my little soapbox from personal experience opinion on loneliness and what I've done in the past to battle that. The final question that I want to answer today from a listener, I actually answered this a while back, but I do want to address it because I've had other people ask me here and there as well. But it's, where did I learn yoga and what videos do I do? So I'm self-taught yogi. I don't even really truly consider myself a yogi. I am a yogi in training. I would love to go to classes. I would love to do it outside of the house, but I have 3 daughters. We're on a very tight budget and it's really not in the cards for me right now. So I'm self-taught. I've attended a couple of local classes here several years ago. We just had them down at actually the elementary school in one of the classrooms with a gal that was just kind of doing it on the side. And that was really fun. She had a little bit of a different style than what I do at home. So I just embraced yoga because I have gone my entire life with these very high intensity active sports, high intensity workouts, and I knew what I needed in my life at the time when I started my yoga practice was slower intentionality and space to work on my breath, space to work on my mind. I wanted more of a holistic approach to my health, and I didn't think that I was getting that from higher intensity workouts. Now, I still love a higher intensity workout. I think they're super fun. I still love weightlifting. I use mini bands, but I do it all from home. And that has served me really well. That has helped me in my personal growth, both physically, emotionally, and mentally in so many ways. So I didn't learn it from anywhere other than myself and sweet old YouTube. So moving into the next part of that question was, what videos do I do? So I actually already answered this for the gal that specifically asked me this, and I was emailing back and forth. But then I wanted to share with you one that she found that she has really liked, and it's called doyogawithme.com. She said I have not looked it up, but she said there's a series of levels. So if you're a beginner, you can start at that beginner level. So again, it's doyogawithme.com. com. I'll try to put that in the show notes as well, so you don't have to go back and listen to this again. The other ones that I do, and anyway, she said she really, really enjoyed that. But the other ones that I do that I've really enjoyed is yoga with Cassandra, which is Cassandra with a K. I love the Find What Feels Good community which is yoga with Adrienne. Her approach is all about it's a very approachable form of yoga. It is finding what feels good, not necessarily what is absolutely yogi specific or perfect within the yoga practice. It is what feels good for you, what feels good for your body, and being intentional with getting to know your body in that way. The other one that I love to follow as well it's called Boho Beautiful. It's definitely more challenging. She's beautiful. She does it in all of these beautiful locations. She always has something challenging. And she also has some Pilates workouts on there as well. And Pilates, if you've never done it, oh boy, it is very, very challenging, but also very fun. So those three were actually suggested to me by a friend who I've had on the podcast. Kelsey Spooner has come on the podcast and talked to us about some Montessori school and just her journey in motherhood back in the beginning. I can't remember what episode it is right now, actually. But Kelsey owned a yoga studio. And so her yoga studio was her baby before she had babies. And she is now a stay-at-home mom. She studied Montessori and still keeps up with her yoga practice just personally for her and the kids within her home. But I had reached out to her quite a while ago, actually a couple of years ago, and asked for some suggestions. And those were the three that she suggested to me. And I love all three of them. They're all three different perspectives, different approaches, and different levels of challenge within each of them. One of the things I'll just add really quick in regards to yoga with Cassandra is she has a series of yin yoga practices on there, which are a little bit longer, but I will say it is so good for us busy, clutter-brained moms to embrace a yin yoga practice. It made my skin crawl the first time that I did it because I was not used to sitting still trying to clear my mind for that long. And I'm not going to lie, it was one of the most mentally challenging things that I have done in a while. But after I kept with it and I stuck with it, it ended up being something, and now to this day is something that I absolutely need in my life. There's a form of meditation involved in it, but it's also just clearing your mind and taking a pause, an extended pause. So you're holding a yin yoga pose. You're holding a yoga pose for like 3 to 4 minutes, which you're probably saying, oh my God, like how would I ever do that? But it's not a yin yoga like you're not in a handstand for 4 minutes, which you probably could be. I just haven't got to that level. And I don't know enough about yoga to even say if that's like a good idea. But so you're talking like a pigeon pose for 3 to 4 minutes, totally doable for you. Or 4 to 5 minutes, maybe even on some of them. And it is incredible what it teaches you and how it clears your mind and helps you breathe and relaxes you and puts you in this place of stillness, because we never take that opportunity for ourselves. So it's one I recommend you do in the mornings or in the evenings when the kids aren't going to be around. Some of the other yoga practices, especially the Find What Feels Good in that community with yoga with Adrienne, you can definitely do those with the kids. And I think it's super fun. And I do include the kids with those. But the yin yoga with Cassandra, which is just a small bit of her series of poses, is definitely something that you want to do independently, kind of on your own when you can take some time and some space. But it is a absolutely beautiful self-care, self-love practice. It's one of the best things you can do for you. So that's my answer to the yoga question. Self-taught. Thank you, YouTube. I am on a budget. I don't want to pay for these things, but I do subscribe to the channels. So I know when they have new videos coming out, and I always get really excited to try their new videos. Usually they come out with them like once or twice a month. So there's always a variety and always something to choose. But the other gal that I had talked to, she has been really liking doyogawithme.com. So I keep meaning to check that out also, to maybe just add it to my repertoire of other options, because it's always good to have other options. So that is my that is my question and answer series today. Thank you so much, everybody who sent in questions. I would love to give you a shout out if you have a question, or I can keep it completely anonymous. I'll have Brad back on soon so we can do a question and answer series with him from Dad's perspective as well. I like to include him, but he does get a little bit nervous to come on, but I keep telling him he just needs some more practice. So if you guys have any other questions regarding the information we discussed today, please don't hesitate to reach out. As always, thank you so much for listening. Please remember that I believe in you, I care about you, and I'm so incredibly proud of each and every one of you. Thank you so much for listening today, sweet mama. I look forward to talking to you again soon.